So we are live, Google broadcasting this lovely little event, and it's very strange for me to be staring at my face on my own screen, but this is very exciting because it is 7 o'clock on Sunday night, and we are here, Google broadcasting, talking about debunking the purpose myth. Just a couple things for you to know, a couple notes I have to share with you. As you enter the Hangout, the video and audio controls for your own screen are at the top of your screen. If you mouse over, you'll see them kind of pop up at the top of your screen. You can turn your own audio and video off up there if you would prefer not to have your lovely face shown on the screen alongside mine. Also, there is a chat window on the right side of the screen. That's a great place for you to put your questions during the Hangout so that I can get to them after I'm done giving you kind of my 3 pointers, my rundown, so that you don't forget and you don't have to write them down, and they are readily available for me. So I'm Heather of heatherdaywellness.com. These days I am in my parents' house in Maine, lovely, chilly Maine, taking a little vacation from the rainy season in Costa Rica, where I usually live, teaching yoga, doing my coaching virtually as well as in person, and trying to learn how to surf lately. Tonight, we are going to talk about debunking the purpose myth. This is something that there's an incredible amount of conversation out there around. If you look on Google and look up finding my life purpose, you get 1,000,001 different articles, anything from Psychology Today to Life Hacker, to Zen habits, to many people's personal blogs as well, who are looking to find their life. I'm pretty sure this is a fairly new concept, though I haven't exactly pinpointed how far back we became obsessed with finding our life purpose. But these days, with the New Age and self-help movement, it's become something that we're constantly seeking, something that we're constantly pursuing. And very few people would actually tell you, yes, I know my life purpose in that degree of clarity. Instead, most people spend a crazy amount of time and energy putting their attention, putting their intention onto figuring out what their life purpose is, but because they end up not knowing, they end up just frustrated and feeling like they lack motivation, they lack momentum, they don't have enough focus, they are just floating, they're drifting. There's a whole lot of different adjectives that people use to talk about the state of lacking life purpose. Maybe you're one of those people who knew what you wanted to do with your life since you were 7, of which many of us are very envious at different times in our lives. I was not one of those people. In reality, most of us are what we call multi-passionate, a term which I'm pretty sure whoever coined it actually just meant to say normal. There are very few people in this world who would say they only have one passion. Most of us have multiple passions. So tonight I am going to debunk 3 of the core tenets of this whole conversation of finding your purpose, and deliver to you 3 smart things that you can put into play to escape this never-ending cycle of, oh my God, what's my purpose in life? I don't know what I'm doing. So the 3 pieces of the purpose myth we will debunk tonight are, number 1, first, focus on what you love to do. Make a list of all of the things that you like, all of the things that make you happy, and that will make it clear to you. We've all heard this one. Number 2, Finding your purpose requires immense amounts of introspection, meditation, and the answer exists completely within your personal bubble. And number 3, once you identify your passion, then you can put it into action. That's the logical progression. We'll dive right in. Number 1, focus first on what you love to do. Make a list of all the things that make you happy, and then you'll know. For most of us, this assignment sends us into a complete panic because, like I said, this term multi-passionate really is quite normal. There's very few people out there who would honestly say they know their one singular passion. So for most people, when I ask them this question, it's like this clutter of love and joy, and they go, I like lots of things. And then they can start listing off things, none of which really have anything to do with their particular purpose and passion in the world. So clearly, you are a creative, smart, open-hearted person. You have lots of passions. You want to help lots of causes, including saving the world. But that doesn't mean all of those things are your purpose just because you like walking dogs or teaching kids how to play hopscotch or reading Russian poetry. I've never read Russian poetry, to be honest. Maybe that's your purpose. Sorry. So if this question feels easy to you and you have a clear answer, then you should be doing it, and you should write it down, and you should tell me how you figured that out, because you probably need to write a book. It's probably already clear to you what your purpose is, and I'm not sure why you're on this call, but thanks for being here. So this is one part of an exercise I'll be using in my upcoming course called the Yes Factor, and it's often one I use with my clients because they find it so much easier to tell me what they don't like about their current life than what they, or they find it easier to tell me what they don't like about their work situation presently and past than they find it easier to tell me what they do like, what they want. And in all honesty, although for a long time I tried to keep people in the positive, I realized that this is actually a great place to start because it's information that we have readily available. It's something that we think about pretty frequently. Things like qualities or recurring themes that we really don't enjoy in our current lifestyle or our current career. Regular tasks or activities that we find ourselves doing all the time, but actually drive us pretty crazy. I think I have a spider calling on me. Or the third one, specific things about our current jobs, career paths, practices that we really aren't into. And ideally look for qualities rather than the specifics. I don't like working next to Bob. Maybe we turn that into, I don't really like working with people who I don't find supportive, enthusiastic, really gung-ho about the projects that we're working on together. So once you have a solid list of the things you don't like or qualities you don't want in your world, you'll have some pretty good sidebars that you can then fill in with the things that you would probably like better. For example, back when I had a desk job in my early 20s in an office, I really hated being micromanaged. I wanted to be able to use my creativity, and when someone was constantly coming and looking over my shoulder and telling me, do it this way, spell it this way, organize it this way, that drove me absolutely batty. So if I flip that, what I do want is autonomy. I want space to be creative. I want agency to take hold of a project and do it the best way that I see possible. Of course, if I have a supervisor, checking in with them along the way to make sure they support me, but I want that trust. I want to feel like I have the space, I have the permission to do it the best way that I see possible. Another one for me that I don't like is feeling disconnected from people and isolated. So for me, that's turned into building a business that allows me to connect with people on a very intimate level regularly, not only with my clients and the people who are in my programs, as well as the people who read my newsletters and respond, which is like one of my favorite things. But I get to network with other coaches, other people who are doing good work in this world. Through my own work. It's built some incredible connections for me, people who I now travel and visit and who I now call dear friends. So that for me was a way of turning this dislike into something related to my purpose. My purpose now includes my own creativity and autonomy, and it also includes a way to connect with other people. So use this next 30 seconds, I look at my wrist as though I have a watch on, to write down 3 qualities right off the top of your head that you dislike about your current situation now. Go. Okay, good work. And if you didn't finish, you can do it later. You know what you were doing. We're moving on to number 2. Number 2, finding your purpose requires immense amounts of introspection and meditation. And the answer exists completely within your personal bubble. So I'll confess, number 1, I meditate sometimes, but it's not my favorite way of dropping in. I much prefer movement. I much prefer yoga. I much prefer dance. So meditation is not necessarily my favorite way of introspection. Disclaimer. So this has generally seemed like the most logical approach, right? Only you know what your purpose is, so it's time to look inside. But many of us have had that uncomfortable experience where we sit down to meditate or we sit down to connect and we say, self, okay, what is my unique purpose in the world? And we take a deep breath and 5 more, and all we hear is crickets or maybe the ghost. Nothing particularly insightful. So personal reflection is incredibly important in knowing what resonates and what doesn't. A great deal of information, though, can actually be gleaned from the outside. This is one of the few moments in which we might say, actually, look outside of yourself for some possible answers. So often we are so completely wrapped up in our own lived experience of ourselves and of whatever is happening in the world around us that we lack the perspective and the distance to see what's really going on, what our skills are, what our talents are, what our gifts are, what those things are that really light us up. So while this advice is full of good intention to look inward and to reflect and to cultivate that stillness, it might be turning you away from actually a great source of reflection, the people who know you best. Or, as I see it with my clients, someone who can actually hear everything you're sharing and reflect back to you what you're really saying. One of my clients is traveling soon to bring her workshop to multiple cities in the US and Canada as a result of this one. It was there. She talked about it all the time, how she wanted to do it. She just needed someone to reflect to her, hey, I think what you actually want to do is take this workshop and travel. Chances are there are people in your life who see you completely light up on a regular basis, but they don't necessarily take the time to reflect that to you in the moment. They're the ones who know you to talk about the things that make you giddy. They know that expression on your face when you're really super excited about something. And they pay attention enough to know what you talk about all the freaking time, but you might not be aware of it. Your purpose is not completely personal. I know this breaks a lot of the rules that we talk about with purpose, but it's not completely personal because it's your unique contribution to the universe. It's your role in the universe. And the way in which others are receiving your gifts and talents and brightness can give you incredible clues to what your specific puzzle piece, your color, really is. One thing I heard from a teacher once is that the universe is made of all sorts of different colors. And if your color is missing, no one can take your place. Nobody can fill your place. I kind of like that. So find a few of those friends or family members or a partner and ask them point blank. If you had to describe my purpose on the planet with zero consideration of what I actually do for work right now, what would you say? Don't bother to ask them about how quite yet, though I'm betting you'll get lots of unrequested advice. So 30 seconds, write down the names of three people you are going to ask for this advice now. And done. Good work. Now I really, actually seriously want you to do this one. It's a big one. So myth number 3, first find your passion, then you have to get to work. It's nice work if you can get it, if you can psychically know that this thing is the one thing that you really love to do, and it's the most fulfilling thing ever. Like you are pre-programmed with your life purpose in utero. And who knows, maybe you are. There are lots of different perspectives on that one, and I will not wax philosophical on that at this moment. Maybe you can catch me in another moment for that one. But the truth is, we can agonize forever and ever about being sure that this is our life purpose. We can run it around in our brains for months and years, and we can vision board about it. And we can make idea maps about it, about how maybe we could do it. But can you ever be really sure? Not until you try it. You actually have to do it to know if this feels right. And in order for something to deeply implant itself in your heart and spirit in the sense of, oh my God, yes, this is my purpose, you have to feel an emotional compulsion to do said thing or be said thing. That's the motivation that will keep you doing or being that thing again and again and again, even when it feels difficult and there are 1,000 roadblocks and it seems improbable and everyone else seems like they're doubting you. This motivation is what's going to start you when you feel stuck. Or in some cases, it's what's going to keep you going once you make that initial leap. But sometimes you just have to start. If you have no idea what your purpose is, and the 2 exercises that I just gave you have given you zero fodder, you just have to do something that you're into. Walk the dogs, hang out with your sisters, go volunteer somewhere. Just get off the couch, get out of your personal little world and go try something. Because your purpose will not be found on television, and your purpose will likely not be found on Facebook either. So, write down right now 3 small things, like super small, like go volunteer at the Humane Society one day that you could do within the next week. that are kicking you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, that are taking you off the couch, out into the world, trying something new, trying something that you're not doing right now. 3 small, really small things. Go. And scene. We ran through those pretty fast, but in summary, number 1, instead of writing down all the things you love, including rainbows and bunnies and unicorns, write down some of those non-negotiable, oh my God, I cannot have these things in my life, and let them create an edge into which you can fill your purpose. An edge from which you can turn and see, okay, what's possible when I look in that direction, away from these things that I know are completely non-negotiably out of my life. Number 2, let yourself receive the reflections of the other people in your life who witness on a regular basis all of the things that light you up. Allow them to show you where you shine, to reflect to you what you are a complete nerd about, and to share with you what you love, the places that you maybe haven't noticed yet, or maybe you have, but having somebody else reflect them to you brings just that extra little bit of emphasis that perhaps that's an arrow at your purpose. And number 3, just go do something. Anything, small things, just start. If you think maybe this is the direction you want to go, just try it. Because you can't have that cellular emotional motivation that will keep you going unless you start, unless you begin with an activity. You begin by doing something and allow that to ingrain itself on your cellular level. And if it sucks, try something else. I think that's what I have for notes. That was a quick 20 minutes. We have some people on the line viewing, so I am going to turn on the Q&A function. If you see the chat feature over to the right side of the screen, if you have any questions or you would like to jump in and ask a question, by all means, please do so. Also, if you'd like to unmute yourself and join the conversation, you can definitely do so. I would love to hear from you. So I want to know, number 1, either in the chat box or if you want to unmute yourself and chat with me, do you know your purpose? If you don't, do you feel like you have any hints as to what it might be? And number 3, question number 3, I love 3s. What have you done that you have found useful to identify your purpose? So again, if you hover over your screen, if you go up to the top, you can unmute yourself on the volume button. You can even turn on your video, or you can jump over into the chat box and show me over there what your questions are. We have no questions because everybody knows their purpose already. Well, maybe I'll share then a little bit about my own journey to find what I see to be my purpose. And it's one that I was maybe going to talk about during the conversation tonight, during the call tonight, but I decided not to because I really wanted to focus in on these 3 key tenets that I feel like dominate the whole purpose conversation to its detriment. The one that eventually got the axe, but was in line to be talked about, was that your purpose is constantly evolving. I think this is one that gets left out of the conversation a lot, unfortunately, and it becomes this dialogue of you find your purpose and you've honed in on your purpose and great, now you're set for the rest of your life. It's not true. The people I know who are really living from their passion and who are putting it into action every day are constantly evolving. They're constantly evolving how they're expressing their purpose into the world. They're constantly evolving even the core focus of their purpose sometimes. Depends on how old we are. It depends on what's going on in our lives in terms of our families, where we live, what opportunities are presenting themselves to us. It's all constantly changing. So even if you find your purpose next week, in 2 weeks from now, you may find yourself saying, okay, well, that was good for 2 weeks. And now we're in the process of reevaluating what it is that I want in my life now. And then maybe 5 years from now, you find yourself in a different situation in your life. You're starting a family, or maybe your kids have moved out of the house, and suddenly there's ample space for your purpose to evolve. It's constantly in flux. It's constantly in flow. That quote that we all know and love so much, the only constant in life is change. For me, I found my purpose at present because I didn't know how exactly to take all of my different passions, to take all of the different things that naturally come from me in my life and actually put them together to support me in my life, to support a career, to support my adventures, to support my lifestyle. It seemed very improbable that all of the things that I loved to do could actually become a career. As I mentioned in number 2, I knew that I wanted to connect with people. I'm one who loves to connect very intimately and very closely with people. I knew I didn't want to be micromanaged. I went through so many different office jobs and workplaces. It's kind of not even funny. My resume is a little bit of a joke at this point. Pretty days in the archives on my computer. So I knew I needed more creative freedom. I knew I needed the space to take on projects and just go with them in whatever way I saw best. And I knew that I wanted to support people, that one of my gifts is my intuitive ability to support people to find their unique gifts, my ability to see through people's lives, and my ability to hone in on what's really going on for somebody when they think they don't know why they're stuck. But how do you translate that into a career? I continued to look around and see if maybe there were careers out there that fit my particular brand of expertise. But lo and behold, there weren't really any in the usual working world. One day, lo and behold, this thing called coaching came into my awareness. And it was literally like someone had parted the little space in the clouds when the sunbeams come down, and it's like angels singing and symphonic music in the movies. It kind of felt like that. But then it became the process of, okay, unique form will this take? But for so long, I had agonized over how I'm going to put this together and make it into something that fits into some sort of box. It just needs this to constantly evolve. It needs the space to not fit into a box. It needs the space to change over time. We need to change jobs. We need to change situations. We need to change passions, pursuits, and hobbies. So give yourself the opportunity, the liberty to continue evolving. Just because your purpose changes from week to week doesn't necessarily mean it's not your purpose. It means you are an evolving, growing, wonderful human being. So I'll open it up once again for questions. If anybody has questions, if you go to the top of the sidebar on the left side of your screen, you probably have the little icons over there. And you should have one right at the top that allows you to open the chat box. And that will pop up over to the right side of your screen. And if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat box, or you can also unmute yourself, turn on your video, wave hello, and ask a question if you so desire. We'd love to hear from you. So while you're formulating your questions, I do want to let you know that the Yes Factor program that I mentioned earlier, registration is still open for one more week, but the early bird price does close tomorrow night at midnight. So if anyone is interested in joining the Yes Factor, you can learn more about that on my website, Heather Day Wellness, all one word, /yes-factor. So that's heatherdaywellness.com/yes-factor. And that's a 30-day challenge that'll be taking many of these principles and putting them into practice to help you find your purpose, let it evolve, and start asking for what you want and what you need in your life. This courageous yes philosophy really put into action in a 30-day group challenge. So one last call for anyone who has any questions tonight. If you have any questions that you didn't want to pose to the group or in the chat box, you can email them to me at heather@heatherdaywellness.com, and I will do my best to answer you back as fully and as quickly as possible. So thanks, y'all, for hanging out with me tonight. Much love to everyone out there in the world who joined. Wonderful to see you on the Google Hangout. And until next time, namaste.